Okay, so it is going to be, I just got some more information that I'm looking back in my memory bank. Miki may be able to prove this about this setup that they did with the church. I'm not blaming the church. To my understanding, when I went with Miki, this is about the story about me, Frankie, Miki, Miguel, and Diana. They arranged an intervention to have Miguel say he was sorry and do a forgiveness story along with the two adults that were there. And Miki, I want to say, I think was outside. And, you know, and it kind of makes me think, and I don't know if the kids could have played along with this, where they didn't know what was going on, but they told Miki, go play with Miki for a moment outside the phone. They have to talk for a moment. And they don't tell him that. Because the oldest kid, I think, was like 16 or 17. He wasn't older than 17, he was like 16. And I have to say this, 100%. The guy that was standing behind Miguel, when I looked like this, I remember the guy tried covering his face and hiding, but I caught him. And he was standing somewhat behind, close to Miguel, and looking at Frankie, and they both engaged. And this is a guy that looks like Ken Cooper. He's a white guy with white hair, 225 pounds, about 6'2". He was a pretty tall person. He was like 6'2", at least that. And he's standing behind, and when I looked over, I remember just seeing like some of his face and shoulder and body, and they did this because they knew that I was the watchdog. They knew that I was looking and always monitoring Frankie, and that's why they had us go there to evaluate me. Because they always knew that the reason that Miguel ever got caught was because of me. They knew it was me because Miguel and Diana told them, oh yeah, Hector was there. So they knew and wanted to blame me. Everyone knew that I was like the person that told, hey, look what's happened to Frankie. Someone did something to Frankie. But the guy is standing behind Miguel. I'm not kidding you. It looks he has a resemblance of white cowboy Ken Cooper looking. And you can tell he has that Texan sort of attitude of the white man. And, you know, but when you go to a church and all this and they invite you to their house, you don't know really what to expect. You think that, oh, okay, well, it's just some white people, but they're nice. You know, you don't really think of someone's racial barriers. But that's because I don't know what's happening. This guy was standing behind Miguel, and he engaged with Frankie to sort of scare him to say, no, Jesus Christ did it for us. But Miguel was standing like this, and he was standing in front of Frankie, and he was standing like this, you know. And they keep making me. You can see how they're making me pass gas, and it's just to get away with what they did. What happens is, it's almost like I can kind of barely see, and I'm standing like this to my left side, the door's on my right, and I look like, and I'm standing here, and I have to kind of do this because I see, and the guy is standing, Miguel's like this, like, he's standing this way, and he's just like this, he was like, yeah, you say, you can forgive me, you know, and he's just kind of, I don't know if they had him on medication, I don't know what the situation is, it's none of those things. And what happens is the guy that's behind him, that looks like Ken Cooper, that arranges with his transgender wife, that looks white guy, resemble a cowboy Ken Cooper, is behind Miguel, and he knows that he doesn't want me to see Frankie. He doesn't want me to see his face, and he's hiding. And Frankie's like this. Frankie's like, oh, and I can see Frankie's face that he looks up at this guy, and he knows, and both of them engage. Like Miguel's a big, Frankie's about 14 years old, and Miguel's kind of like this, like, you know, I'm gonna say he's like this, and I don't know if he shook hands. I don't think he shook hands with him, but that's what he does, and it's right before we leave, and the guy behind him is just like, Like, you know how, like, you want to convince and manipulate and use your religious belief to get away? Jesus Christ. So this guy, I know, was defending Ken Cooper because they know about Ken Cooper. Everyone knows about Michael Jackson. So I wanted to say that I think it's very important. This guy that was standing was the one that was intimidating Frankie as well. To say, yeah, I told you, Jesus Christ. Look, I love the Lord. I understand that our Savior, but you have to understand that not everyone is doing this for the goodness of us. And I want to say on behalf of Frankie, this guy that was standing right behind Miguel, I saw him, like, whenever I looked like that, and I saw it, like, in his face, like, in his, like, sort of side part of his body, like, he was just kind of like, and he was role-playing as Miguel was like this, and Frankie was just like, okay, you know. And Miguel was kind of to his right, and he goes, oh, no, it's okay, you know. And he goes about his business. So I want to say, Miki can find out who these people are, where they came from. I asked Miki several years, like a year later, whatever happened to them. One of them, I think, moved away or got in trouble. One of them, I think, was adopted. One of them looked kind of like Kenneth. He resembled a little bit like Kenneth, which is the comedian kind of person I was talking about. But I wanted to talk about this very urgently. They set this up against Frankie. I know that this is going to be a very difficult situation. I don't really believe that it's even going to be possible to even prove because it was so long ago. I don't know if anybody has the energy and time. But do you know why I think there is the energy and time? Because the minute that I made a video about it and made a reference about it, yesterday or 2 days ago, I went to the bakery and there was a person that looked exactly like one of the people that transgender lady that was at that Bible study. And this guy was standing right across Miguel the entire time. He wasn't trying to scare him. He wasn't like, he was just trying to reaffirm that, you know, he just made a mistake and you need to be a man about this. You need to be a man about this. That's how men do it. You made a boo-boo. That's exactly how he was kind of playing, and he was just kind of like, and Miguel was just kind of like, the whole time he's just kind of like, he's just kind of doing that. And, you know, he isn't nervous and maybe moving a little bit, but he isn't in any way, you know, but registering empathy. It just seems like doesn't want to go to prison and get caught for what he did. And I think, in my opinion, you know, Miki could find out who these people were, because I talked to Miki about what these people are and who these people came from, and they said that they went to Miki. They knew Diana. Diana was the one that knew these people, to my understanding. Obviously, Miguel wasn't doing very much talking, but Miguel and Miki were friends with one of the kids or something like that for a partial of the time. I don't know where they went to church or they invited him to go to a church Bible study meeting. And it really wasn't a Bible study, it was just a gathering to talk about God. That's what it was. There was no Bibles that opened up when we were there talking about scripture. There was just a prayer before we ate, and it was just like, let's talk about God. And there really wasn't. And Frankie, we were all sitting at this dinner table, and this guy that resembled the character Cowboy King Cooper is sitting right across from Miguel, and he's sitting next to the transgender that's at the center of the table. I mean, at the very end table, the boss end table. And he's just looking at Miguel like, and so Frankie's there the whole time. Frankie knows what's going on the whole time. There's nothing he can do. They're cornering this. That family did that. So I want to say this, that I don't know who's doing this. I don't know who's doing the research. They know who these people were. they know Diana was spilling the beans and so much of this to find the transgenders to come harass me. I went to the bakery and they were standing right over there, and they start playing acting roles in front of me to then redefine the character of what that person actually was doing, to try to help poison and cover up that sexual rape and all the other homosexuals that played along with this, the transgenders. So that's what I have to say about this. I'm going to draw the pictures sometime this week. Miki will be able to verify. I remember where Diana and Miguel were sitting. I don't remember Frankie. I think Frankie was sitting next to Miki. But I remember where most of us were all sitting at the dinner table. And I think it's important for me to say this because that's what was happening. The church organ it wasn't a church organ, it was a personal vendetta against covering up what was going on. And the guy, he stood right behind Miguel, and he was telling Frankie, because as soon as he saw me like look at him, he tried to cover up his face, and I could see he kind of like, don't let him see me, like don't let him look at what's going on. Like I could kind of see that, but I didn't understand why. And I remember him, kind of like whenever I looked like that, and he didn't flinch too much because he would have known I would have really seen him move very quickly, so I wouldn't catch him. But he kind of goes like, "Second Christ." Like, it was just kind of this, let me see, I'm going to abuse this to get what I want and get the next thing I want. So I want to say this, they both engaged at Frankie 100%. I had no idea. Frankie, because when that guy stood up to Frankie kind of, like his posture and body language, he kind of looked like, because I saw him kind of move to this other guy, and the guy behind him was like backing up, helping Miguel, so that Miguel would just go to him and give him a forgiveness story. And they didn't hug. It was just, he was like, "Oh no, it's okay." And and Frankie was in the car the whole time. When we got in the car and left, he was looking out the window, just kind of like his eyes were kind of glossy. Like his eyes were glossy and kind of reddish. Like he was just somewhere else, like something else was going on, like he was traumatized, but Dick was holding it inside, and he was just looking out the window the whole time. And Diana was playing, the transgender Diana was playing along with it, going, I don't even remember the conversation in the car, but I remember hearing just Frankie one time in the car saying, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's fine, it's no big deal, there's no big deal." And I don't remember what the conversation, but I remember hearing that in the car. Now, I wanted to say this because, on behalf of Frankie, what is really happening? Everyone knows about the Michael Jackson experience. Everyone knows about what's going on. It's the transgenders that are doing this, and gays. That's who's doing this. This is the people that are doing this. They're the ones that were registering, figuring out who was where, what was going to, how they were going to frame and set everyone up. They're doing this to support Ken Cooper. I know that you don't want to believe me. I know that's exactly why. Because there's no reason why a white guy wants to get involved with a Mexican person like my mother and her children without notifying and doing that to her son. Because this guy, that family, and the three kids are, in my opinion, are totally innocent. I remember, if I would have had my sort of hunch or epiphany, or whatever you want to call it, about it, I think one of the kids were playing along. Not that they knew about the rape, obviously, because they were too young. They were just sort of doing something else. The parents were involved to use the kids to get away with what they were doing. That's what my opinion is. Obviously, they were, but I think it's a lot more detailed than that. So, I don't know if they told, Frankie got touched by this guy, so just really firm, the gay man, the straight man, the gay was supposed to be. And so they'll start playing these roles when we're sitting at the dinner table, and that's how they sort of convince you that this is normal, and it's not. It's just to vindicate and get away with, hey, we got the police department that said that we can rape you. We're going to fix things to the Bible and Jesus Christ. Look, I'm not here to shame Jesus Christ. I'm not here to say, but that's exactly what these people are doing. There isn't anything. It's just like when you go to court. No matter how bad if you do a really bad crime, you know, you could pray to your God or Jesus all you want, but that judge doesn't care, and the jury doesn't care. The lawyers don't care about God. They don't believe it really exists God at all. They don't at all. They're not in any way. And it doesn't mean that someone else is going to harm you or someone else too. So that's what I have to say about this. I want to say, whoever can look it up in the straight community, please understand they went after Frankie and they framed us. I was there in the living room with them, and I was very close by the door because we were on our way walking outside, and I want to believe Miki was already outside. And we were done eating and we were walking outside, and that's when that tall guy looked over and was telling Frankie, like, and he was kind of like, please look at me, see gay now, can't people, yeah, they have white hair. Let me tell you something. I'm not playing racist, but this is exactly what this is with cowboy, you know, cowboy or whatever, you know, can't. It doesn't matter because probably people did that probably with me, with my mother 20 years ago. They got somebody who probably looked like me and go talk to my mother so that they could erase me from her life even more. You know, and I have no idea about it. My mom doesn't know what's going on about it, and it poisons your environment. It's to toy with you. That's what they're doing. They're playing professional psychology. That's what they're doing. So, as far as I have anything to say with this, is 100%. Look, those couples are not alive anymore. 100%. I mean, that guy I think was in his late 40s or I'd say about mid 50s at the latest. He was at his mid 50s at the latest, but I'm gonna say he was in his early 50s to late, and he had full like gray white hair. I mean, I'm gonna say he was in his 50s. This was when I was 11 years old. I was about 11 years old when this happened. 10 to 11 years old. And if I was 10 to 11 years old, I'm 40 years old, this is almost 30 years ago. That would mean that guy and that woman, that individual transgender have already passed on. You may be able to find out through pictures of who these people were, but I think it's important for me to say something. Because that lady, that tall trans lady that had like this sort of curly hair, she was already like in her late 40s. Like you looking at her, she was like in her early 40s. I wouldn't late 40s at the best, but she was definitely, definitely at least 39 years old. I'm not even there. I'm going to say in her 40s. She was like somewhere in her 40s for sure. She had kind of like a tint of gray hair, but like some brown to it. Like she was younger than this guy. And, that was 30 years ago. If that person would be alive, they'd be 75 years old by now. The woman would be. That guy would be 90 years old by now. They're not alive anymore. I doubt, because it was so long ago. This is what I want to say on behalf of Frankie and what was happening to his life, and my mother needs to know. You may be able to find the pictures, you may be able to find who these kids were, these teenagers. One of them kind of resembled Kenneth. It's a very, one of them I think they said was their kid. One of them I think was adopted, and one of them moved into that house when they were like 14 or 15. But from my understanding is that they went to the church or some sort of gathering with Diana and Miguel, and they invited them and had them bring Frankie along and me along with them. And they wanted me to go along, and they made this whole like, hey, let's size them up. They didn't say that, but they try to sort of play this church, but the whole forgiveness, reuniting and hug, shaking hands, forgiveness, Jesus would have wanted. They set up, and they did this without my mother's permission. My mother had no idea. My mom didn't even know that Frankie was raped. But this is what they set up. Diana knew who these people were. So on behalf of Frankie, that's what I'm saying.